Hello.
Hello, Gali. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening. How are you?
Good. Gali, I wanted to tell you, esta noche estoy en mi computadora antigua y no tengo cámara.
It's okay. No worries.
Thank you.
Give me a second. No worries. You can do it. You can do that. And what about Carla?
Hi, Gali, how are you?
How are you, baby?
Where are you?
I am in in a office. I told you that I come to be volunteer in a
Yeah,
center that works with mental issues, right? So I am in
yes,
an office where they like they save like all the medicaments and
yeah,
everything.
so nice.
But it's
Yes,
just that office is the place where I found it, like for work. But
yes,
all the
my question was about that. If you were in, if you are
I
in
am,
that place or not, but
I am. They have,
congratulations. Enjoy
yeah.
it.
Thank you. I am. They have like two offices, one close to Samaipata that was in the place where I was, another one in Santa Cruz. I am in the same city that Nicolas. Actually,
Oh,
we are in the same place. And here they have 28 guys with mental issues, but it's like really hard. They take a lot of medication and they start to have crises and being so anxious and they start to cry. It's really hard to understand their situations. And they was like abandoned when they was so young, when
yeah.
they were so young, sorry. And yeah, it's really hard, but I am like without energy. I have been with them all the day since 7 in the morning until now, and I didn't finish. But they demand a lot of attention, and they need like that being taken care of them. And yeah, so I am doing that here. And for now, this will be my office, and I will be working from here. But if at some point you listen something or something happening around, sorry, because I am not in my apartment. So now
No,
I
no,
have like more distractions, but
not worry.
almost
Yeah,
focused.
no,
And
yes,
yeah,
but
so that is the plan.
you will learn. Yeah, you will
Yeah,
learn a lot of things. So enjoy it and tell us your experience.
it's really
I
hard.
would like to listen to you.
Yeah, I really like it. I have been like 3 volunteers that changed my life. I do this before in Peru, in the north of Peru, but just with kids with disabilities, and but never with mental health. And now it's my first time, and I am trying to do my best to help them. They just need a lot of attention and hugs and cuddles, and they need love. And I am here for giving them love. But wow, it's like if you have like 26, 26, 27 people that needs attention, so you feel tired. I feel so tired. But I hope
Yes,
someday you give yourself the opportunity to live one of these experiences. And
yes, I
of
would
course,
like.
that it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but worth it. At the end of the day, when you go into the bed, and worth it. But at the end, the weekend, I was in the same refugee, but it's like in the middle of the mountains, and you don't have internet, and it's with old people, but it's from the same organization. And I work with old people, and it was lovely also. Here is like young people. I have kids, and I guess that the older one has like 35 or something. But their cases is wow, and their cases. You know what? I study all of these psycho attacks when I was at the law school. I saw it in criminal law. Like all the exceptions to apply the criminal law when you need
Yeah.
to explain to the judge that was an accident or other cases. And now understand what pathology have each of them. It's like, wow, I study this, but I never see it on reality. It's like they have a lot of situations in their minds, and it's really hard that they cannot go out from there, never. And they just need to get medication for don't punishment themselves. It's really hard. But it's part of my trip, and I love to this, so I just left the apartment, and now I'm here, and I enjoy it. Okay, moving from personal, we are going officially in. We have 2 weeks more. We will finish this course on 21 of May. And from now, this week, we will start with the exam, right? So we will take like 10 minutes every session, and we'll start to do exams. I cannot organize with Carla, but I guess that with Nicolas, I told you the topics already. So if you want to do it today, I am free. But if you want to do it tomorrow, I am free also. You just let me know. Hello, Paula. Good night.
Hi, Gali. Good night.
How are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
I'm
I
fine.
guess that are you driving home? Are you driving home?
Yeah.
No worries, I know.
Actually, my boyfriend is driving. So
Okay, it's okay, it's perfect, I understand. Nicolas, I want to ask you if you have time to do the session today, or maybe you want to do it tomorrow?
Gali, can I take it tomorrow, please?
Yeah, no worries. That I will organize my schedule for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And today we will discuss my favorite topic in life. I have been working for this for years, so feel free to do any questions that you want. This is my topic, this is my strong area. And it's so related with agricultural law because it's the beginning of all the story, right? So how you cannot see how I cannot see you tonight, I will just put the presentation, and then I don't will feel that I'm talking lonely. And tonight we will discuss environmental law. This is my area. I really love it, and I really enjoy it. Okay, Paula didn't listen that, but now I am as a volunteer in a mental health care center. So if for some reason you can or you listen something or you see some movement or whatever, I will please ask you that you understand that I'm not in an apartment. Now I am working again. I love to do this kind of volunteers. I have been doing a lot of this traveling with animals, with refugees, with sick people, with old people, with younger ones. And so now this is the first experience that I have been working with mental issues, and I'm learning a lot. But I guess that something can happen for these days, and I just wanted to keep it in mind and to please understand that it's not my fault, that maybe something will happen. I don't know. And they are so attached. They are so attached. With I don't know what is happening here. No. They are so attached, and they love like hugs and etc. I am at the office, and I told them like I need to time because I need to do some work and etc. But if at some point one kid comes and hug me and etc., I will please ask you that you understand the situation. Okay, so tonight, as I told you, we will talk about environmental law. The first thing that we need to discuss tonight is that when we are referring to environmental law, we have a huge area to apply this kind of law. We have all the federal, state, local, and foreign statutes, law, regulations, ordinances, rules, judgments, orders, decrees, permits, concessions, grants, branches, license, agreements of governmental restrictions relating to pollution and the protection of the environment of the release of any materials into the environment, including those related to hazardous substances or wastes, air emissions and discharges to waste or public systems. Also, we have here all the treaties and all the international agreements that celebrate our countries. Everything that is related with the environmental law, we will describe it in this area. But as you can see here, just in the concept, we can understand that we are talking about administrative law, that we are talking about private law, that we are talking about private international law because they are the grants or the concessions, and everything that is related to this matter or to this area. Now it exists like the custom to start to study these topics as a post-graduation study. But 5 years ago, that doesn't happen. And with Nicolas, in our last speaking call, we discussed about fracking, that I don't know if Carla or Paula know what is it. Do you know what means fracking?
No.
Paula? You don't know? Okay, fracking es una técnica de fraccionamiento hidráulico, right? And this is like so used by engineers just for break the earth, basically, put a lot of water with chemicals and extract oil and gas from the bottom. Yes, because they create like a system and then they take all that and they extract. But the consequences are huge because, Nicolas, I don't know if you are busy and you want to explain to your partners some of the consequences, or if I will do it.
Yes. The most the biggest consequence was the water pollution, because this process not only contaminated the water but also made it toxic and non-recyclable.
Yeah, as we can, thank you so much. As we can understand from the experiences in other countries of Australia or US, in Texas, the water is impossible that you can use it by human consumption. It's impossible because then if you put a little bit of fire, that just turn on, right? It's like a lot of heavy metals on them. And that is the start of the beginning of cancer and other issues that really affect the health of everyone. In this example, you can see that you have a lot of laws, a lot of areas related. We have administrative law, we have environmental law, we have all the license and all this corporative system for apply this kind of proceeding. We have also human rights, because then we have the human rights defenders asking for protection. But also you have all the interests from the government in this kind of projects, right? You know what is royalties? What means royalties?
Like royalty
No.
in the meaning of what? Like royalty. No, I don't know.
Las regalías. Todo el sistema de regalías es un sistema público que funciona de diferente manera en nuestros países, pero la premisa es la básica. Cualquier tipo de extracción va a generar unos dividendos para el gobierno, que dependiendo del estado puede ser de 0.5, de 0.10, de 0.8, de 0.3, 0.3.2, creo que lo tiene Colombia. Y básicamente es devolverle un poquito al gobierno de los dividendos de esa extracción, ¿de acuerdo? So when we talk of this area, we have to refer to a way of thinking, but also how to help to change the decision that affect us, how to find and solve troubles, and the environmentalist, right? Here we have three positions three positions, as we can describe ourselves as a lawyer, right? Remember that as a human, not as a lawyer, we have some needs, right? We need water for drink. We need to have some green in front of us because if not, we get crazy. We need like to that or local or department or basically the town where we live, they manage or they organize really good the system of wastes. Because if not, if you are so close to the wastes, you will start to have affectation in your health and your kids and etc. But basically, we live on the planet and we need that everything is going good. I will tell you one example. If we start to continue to talk about climate change, a lot of these issues affect us or affect some people, like depending on the situation. But imagine the ones that are living in front of the ocean. Everything is changing. They say that in 20 years that place doesn't exist. So it's really hard when we have these consequences about climate change and we have hurricanes and we have a lot of situations that kill people, that make that their life change completely just in a second. And we start to realize that we really depend not just each other, but we have some common space. And no matter what the other part of the world is doing in this moment, they will affect us at some point, right? Not just for the wastes, not just for all the uh, crap that they put in the ocean or that we put, even in an indirect form or way, because sometimes just we put all the wastes outside of our houses, they pick it up and they put it in a place, but then it starts to rain, and that it can happen a lot of situations, but also the people is really unbelievable. They didn't understand that they need to take care of their trash before to put it away. I saw it all the time. And I guess that this generation won't understand this. We have a huge consumption about articles and services and plastic. And at some point, this, I guess, that will be the one of the most strongest laws worldwide. Because exist courts, and here I know that in Bolivia they have a tribunal that they oversees and they regulate like all the environmental situation. But at some point, as we were discussing before, we will have this issue with water, and they will start to take decision because water is life. You know what happens if you didn't drink water for 2 or 3 days? You get exhausted and you need it just for life. So at some point, I guess that will be the gold and the silver. We have in this environmental law a couple of issues just for open your ideas to this topic. And is the first thing that we can do is start to give some value to the environment, but protecting them, that you can be a defender or environmentalist, as I told you before. You can create a law for solve some problems or issues. And when we're talking about local, we have the environmental law. Even if we're talking about laws or we are talking about some decision of the mayor of the town, every decision that we create following the administrative rules, we will talk about environmental law. And also we have other problems that can be quite global, like climate change, but also the fracking, for example, was a technique that they start to implement and they start to inspire other countries just for the production that they have, but they never speak like clearly about the consequences. They do it, but in a really harmonic way, and they talk that yes, the consequence, but that never explained that that was killing people, right? So this topic, it's like really excited for me, the fracking, as I told Nicolas. because that is the best example about how environmental law works. If you didn't prevent it, if you maybe you have some lawyers or partners or colleagues that they are working to get all the licenses, but then if you are working as me in public law or in human rights, you have to take that decision that affects us and to have a little bit of reparation for all the damages. But if the first step of all this way do really good their job, we never have to do that, because we have, for example, consulting for indigenous communities, and they cannot do that kind of extraction process in a specific places where we have these kind of communities. But as some lawyers didn't do good their job, we need to do the intervention and ask for protection at some point for international protection, right? Remember that all the environmental problems are complex because the humans are social and physically complex. If I tell you, please don't use more plastic, you will start to explain to me what you need it, because it's like one product that can give you some hermeneutic system for, or hermetic system for pick it up, or for safe, or for close, or for sale products that we don't have other possibility in the market until now. But also some of you can tell me that the production of plastic or for ecoplastic is going on, and that we have other possibilities to do the implementation of this kind of products. But the thing is, like, we are not just social and physically complex, we are also interrelated all the time. If I put a plastic bag in the river here in Bolivia, at some point that will arrive to Brazil, or at some point that will be arrived to the ocean, and maybe in a couple of years that plastic bag will be in the other part of the world, right, at the other side. So I guess that when we are talking about this, we need to understand how complex is this topic, but also to create that not just we have the responsibility, the government have the responsibility, and the nation to take care of the environment. And sadly, in other countries, is the government the one that starts to sell our lands to other multinational companies for take advantage of all our natural resources. And that is real. We work moving from an extraction proceeding of all of things. Here, Nicolas, in Bolivia, you have Potosi, that is for Carla and Paula. It's a high altitude city where they have a huge mountain that since the conquer of Spanish people, they are putting out silver, like 400 years. If my head is, yes, I guess that is 400 years that they have been extracting silver, gold, and other materials from these mountains. And all that products they exported. If we are talking about the economy of that city, all of them are miners, todos son mineros. But also all the economical fluctuation affect them, because first, like, their expectation of life is 40 years. Almost all miners die at that age because of all that shit that they put in their bodies just for being like looking for silver. But also, if in New York change a little bit the range, that they cannot sell it at the good or at some established price, because they are playing with that also, right? They depend of something that is in the other part of the ocean. Even with the extraction is huge, and you go to Potosi, and all the houses are just amazing inside because they are miners and they do a lot of money. And that at some point, that sounds so sad, but we are here changing our life and our time for money, and they are doing the same, just from other point of view. Some radically, yes, and in a direct form, but we are doing that every day from your office or whatever. If you are working, it's because we need for live, right? We have a lot of frameworks. We have all the international statements that explain to us how we should deal with one of these cases as fracking, that is the example, but also how we should manage all our natural resources, how we interrupt some license, how we get a license, how we can change the concept depending of all the development of my nation. And changing all these frameworks, we have lawyers working and to understand and also what are the duties, responsibilities, but also the limits that has the nation in front or trying to correspond or be responsible about all their international responsibilities that they are attached to, right? When we're discussing nations, we have different legal obligations, different contexts because they produce different and issues and political issues. Sorry que I escribí mal. And political issues. What happened with this specific topic with nations? What is different or what is the complex part here? That some countries, of course, that they produce, but other consume. And if we need to do this exchange of products and services, if we're not talking about some private point of view and we're talking about put a lot of money in the bank account of our clients, and we are talking as a society, a global society that really, really affect us, all the decisions that is doing the other one, this topic about the production being one part of the world, the money comes from the other, and we have to export to the other. At some point, it's like a waste of energy. But if we start to going deep in a deep in the case, it's not just about the money. Is what are the consequences for put a boat for 20 days in the ocean, right? We have a lot of wastes. We have a lot of heavy materials going in the ocean. If you have some accident, then you have a lot of foreign materials. And I don't want to be radical, but that happens all the time. Happens in roads in Bolivia and Latin America. We have accidents at some point. Some huge truck that transports oil, then they have an accident, and for reasons of nature, all that oil went into the river. I don't know if that is so common here in Bolivia. In Colombia, happens all the time. That was of the terrorist attacks from the FARC in other words, was to attack this kind of production, right? They put bombs and then all this oil went to the rivers and after a while to the ocean. They always think that they were affecting just the government, but the reality is that they were affecting the farmers and the little communities that going to going down to that river or in that water system. When we're talking about environmental justice, we have 3 points of view: nations, communities, and the rights of rivers or lands. That is a topic that is quite controversial because a lot of professors say that you cannot give them rights to the rivers, to the lands, to the ocean. That's impossible that they have rights because they are not human, right? Because they cannot protect them. But if you start to see some of the recent decisions of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights in Costa Rica, they start to protect the environment against the decision of the government. That happens a lot of in my country because the government are trying to sell some land that belongs to indigenous communities, and they went to the Inter-American Court for ask for international protection. If they are asking for these limits or these decisions that support that just the government cannot sell a land that belongs to indigenous communities is because the court understands that they are not just protecting a space or a land or a river. They are preserving all our environment, but also they have a special connection and a spiritual connection with the lands, with the river, with the ocean. They find it like a really spiritual place. And if you go against of all this balance, you can start to kill some cultural regions. You can start to go really against all the community because they have some sacramental spaces. They were there to ask for protection, for pray, for do meditation. And that is one of the points that the court mentioned, right? So about how to solve this issue, because all the interest and all these cases are interrelated, we have a legitimate role of the government. We have different points of view, okay? The government can be protectionist or can be regressive in all their decisions. But remember that the government has the international responsibility and the duty to respect and analyze all the principles of tort law, civil law, and criminal law in all these environmental issues. Also, a lot of NGOs work in this area. They work with projects, they ask for international finance, and they start to develop some projects with indigenous communities, with lands, with all the agricultural law. And they are trying basically to make that the government open their eyes and see how their decision affects them. But in criminal law, in my country, for example, is not severe. Exists some claims trying to protect all the criminal area or matter. But from this point of view, the protection and to prevention, but never the extension, If some factories start to do a lot of wastes and affect a lot of people, they always put finance first, that environmental law, and that is that. We have this list, take it from Yale University. They have a special course about principles and strategies in environmental law. This you will find it online, and you will have a wider scope, so huge in comparison about the ideas that I am giving you tonight. But some of these problems are the air pollution, water quality, food safety, loss of biodiversity, climate change, access to minerals, and new developments. I don't know if you remember that we discussed that when we arrive to these kind of matters, we will start to do the essays, right? So this is the first homework that you will have, Nicolas and Paula, and of course that I will put it on the group. And it's, I want that you choose one. And if you want to take it from this corporative world and how it affected, how to defend it, or how to invest, how to change this problem and put it something legal, you can take whatever topic that you want. And the idea is that you do a page, just one page, explaining a problem. And remember that we will have the same structure as always. General, particular, and what is the conclusion? I just that you create an argument in one page, and that's it. Is clear the word?
Yes.
For when we have to present that?
When do you have time? I know that are you working. When sounds good for you? Maybe from the next weekend? Saturday? Sunday?
Okay.
Sunday sounds good for you, Nicolas?
Yep.
Are we gonna review it on Sunday or just present it?
Present it.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, nice. So I will send you to WhatsApp I guess that I will do it now, because if not, I will forget it. Cuando sepa cómo dejar de compartir pantalla para salir de aquí. Les voy a dejar los temas ahí y ustedes toman la decisión que mejor les parezca. Perdón si quedé con cara de loca en la foto. Jeje. Estaba pensando que íbamos. La idea es que ustedes escojan el tema, decidan lo que van a escribir, va a ser una hojita. Ahora no me van a mandar un Arial 18, ¿no? Algo, Arial 12, bien leído, estructuradito. Y pueden escoger el tema que ustedes quieran. Ahora lo pueden relacionar con su punto de vista corporativo, desde su punto de vista de trabajo, de inversión, de manejo de dinero, todo lo que ustedes quieran analizar, pero relacionado con estos 7 temas. Sí, 7 temas. ¿Ok? Now, este es otro tema. ¿Quién volvió? Ok. Carla, I don't know if you can hear me. I just put all these topics on our WhatsApp group, and the idea is that you create an article or an essay, whatever that you want to call it, from what page, and you can use like Arial 12 or something. Don't put something so huge, and take advantage of the situation. But the idea is that you write an argument talking about the general, the particular, and the consequences. And the consequences or the conclusion can be your opinion. Of course, as always, I just want to hear your opinion. If you want to see it as an advantage or as a problem or as a possibility from the Economical World Forum, you can just use it. I just want to see how is the grammar, and that is so easy when you can read it. Also this one, all the chemical products in the environment, depends of you. So we have here some key questions about, and is the level of government appropriate to problem, the branch of government to establish law, the access to data and confidentiality, and when we're talking about trade secrets, and how the government start to guarantee all the information, even when that information can be against some laws and environmental issues that affect us as a community. And esto es algo súper importante que no lo hemos visto antes, y es the preemption. Es difícil la pronunciación. Y es el derecho preferente de compra. Esto pasa muchísimo en materia de gas, en materia minero-energética. Siempre el gobierno, si no es productor, es investor. Si no es productor, invierte, pero siempre va a tener un derecho preferente de compra. Ese es el ejemplo en los hidrocarburos. Es el ejemplo más sencillo. And also we have some administrative discretion that is like the pesticides in food. They didn't have a clear policies about the information of all of these. Because of course that they have an international regimes, but also they cannot tell you the truth about all the foods that they sell you or that the government oversees or regulates, because of course that at some point when we're talking about these kind of products, we have a lot of we have a lot of trash and we are not eating so good. We don't have an health food education. We are not taking care of our lifestyle as we should, because you know that we are what we eat. But the reality is that all this administrative discretion is also a policy from the government, you know? So as we can demand them, maybe we can have an indemnization, but in the most of the time they are trying to don't put that information public. I guess that here, I can't remember. In Ecuador, I guess that no. And in Bolivia, we have a lot of products that comes from Peru. But in my case, for example, in Colombia, in all the products that you consume, you cannot see the sugar that has on it because that is against our public policy. But the reality is that all of these products are the beginning of a huge diabetes at the end of the day. But now in Peru, they have like a huge sticker in all these products, and they start to like with 50% more of sugar, and basically all the data and all the information. And that is what I am referring here in the key questions about this environmental law, the access to data and all this confidentiality. Depending of the policy of the government, they trying to don't put it public because that will change the consumption. So they prefer that the lawyer maybe go against them for 2 or 3 cases, but never to accept the public responsibility that they have about the products that they are selling, because that will affect always the goodwill. I don't know if Nicolas and Paula and Carla, if you have some of these policies or policies that describe what is the real product that you will eat, what is made of. It's not just all this table that you can find with all the information and all the oil and all the salt and all the flavor that you have on it, like the chemical product. It's about if you have a clear message about that what you are eating is just sugar or not. Because that is something that is called food sovereignty, that is la soberanía alimentaria. Eso está incluido en todo este tema de soberanía alimentaria, ¿verdad? Entonces, lo más importante en esta área es determinar y comprender que todos estos, como todo está interconectado, como siempre, y como si yo no tengo un claro acceso a la información como consumidor, la mayoría de personas no conoce qué es el zinc, qué es el sodio, qué es el potasio, cómo afecta la ingesta diferente de este tipo de productos en nuestro organismo. Para nosotros es algo que fluctúa, que va y viene, ¿verdad? Y no somos como tan conscientes de las consecuencias que puede traer nuestro organismo. Ahora, si a mí me colocan un sticker, que es el caso de Perú, que dice como alto en azúcar, alto en grasas saturadas, no es el mismo tipo de información, ¿verdad? Porque está dándole al común de la población un conocimiento claro y un mensaje muy claro que lo que están consumiendo está sobre los límites permisibles que debería aceptarse. Un mensaje. Okay. When we're talking about precedents or interpretation, we will have about some consequences at risk of every decision. This happens depending on the point of view that we are representing. All the consequences, all the risks that every situation or every decision that implies that have like a position of environmental law inside of the matter, we need to start to deal depending of the point of view that we are representing. If we are representing the state, what is the public interest that you need to protect your people? But if you are representing your client, what is the interest that you need to cover? Your client, because Nicolas and Paula understand more than me about this. But that is the reality. And when we're talking about these consequences, at some point when you are talking and when we are discussing these private matter issues, at some point, that is sad but true, they prefer to pay an indemnization that to create a correct policy on the factory for avoid this kind of production, you know? This is so important to understand that every consequence when we're talking in this area is money. But when you are affecting the community, when you are affecting all the town, when you are affecting all the river and all the ocean, even if you put a lot of money in the plant or for do all the treatments of the water, even if you put your best effort to solve the issues that start at the most of the situation, the most of the cases, you cannot solve it, even with all the money of the world. So if you are representing one of these cases, you need to start to analyze what will cost you more, implement a huge policy covering all the incidents that can happen, or just let that incident happen and then pay an indemnization. But also you can have some security services, you can put some guarantees on them, and that will help. ¿Ustedes recuerdan este temita? Dynamic burden of proof. ¿Lo vieron?
No, actually, when I was in college, I was two options. One of the options that is like environment and like environment law. The other one was human rights. So choose human rights.
Okay. You saw environmental law, Nicolas?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay. If we travel in our proceedings lessons, ¿alguna vez escucharon hablar de la carga dinámica de la prueba? No me abandonen ahora.
La carga de la prueba en materia procesal,
Ujú.
sí, es un principio general.
Okay, tell me more about it. Explain to me what means that.
Well, in English, could be the burden of proof has the person that's claiming something.
Mm-hmm.
If you claim something, you have to prove it. That's the burden of it.
Yeah, but what means dynamic? What changed that? Your concept is perfect, but if I put dynamic on the title, that will means what?
You can switch, you can change.
Depending of what?
I'm just guessing right now.
No, don't tell me that, not guess. Okay, Paula, help. Give some international help to Nicolas. What do you think that means dynamic burden of proof?
I don't know.
¿Recuerdas? No te escuché. Paula.
I don't know.
No, no se acuerdan. Bueno, clase de derecho procesal. La carga de la prueba es quien tiene la responsabilidad de atribuir cierto hecho, cierta causa, de determinar determinado hecho, de probarlo, de analizarlo, de llevar a un juez, de llevar ante el juez al testigo, hacer un análisis, de conceptuar. Pero cuando le colocamos la palabrita dinámico, nos estamos refiriendo específicamente a la facilidad que tiene una de las partes. The best example that I can give you in this case is the medical negligence, right? For who of all the two parts in a conflict can be easier to prove something? From the doctor or physician or to the patient? For who will be easier? Because of the knowledge. Of course. So that means that the dynamic burden of the proof is in head of the doctor, right? He's the one that has the duty to prove his or her or whatever innocence, or also to give to the judge all the information, even what can be against or their own interests. And this is managed in all kinds of evidence, in depending all the cases that we have in law. But in this case that I am telling you, the example is, imagine that you are doing a process against the government. Again, you are having the strongest part here, and you are here. If you are a citizen, if you are representing an indigenous community, a sector, always the dynamic burden of the proof will be in head of the government. And when we are talking about commercial, now we are lonely again, Nicolas. What is happening with my students?
I won't leave. I promise.
I want or I won't?
I won't leave. Don't worry.
Thank you. I start with 7 and now I just have 1. I will cry.
Mhm.
Okay, so as I was telling you, in the case of the corporative world, the industry wants that the government proves damages. Okay, the one that have the dynamic burden of the proof in these kind of processes is the government, because they have the structure to analyze all the behavior of the company, right? But all the scientific analysis, fight with lawyers, this law firm represent them. Remember that all the industry always will have the best lawyers because they have the money to invest on them and to try to don't pay some indemnization depending of their behavior. And by the other side of the situation, we have the government that they didn't want to invest all the professional or in all the capacity or legal capacity to win some of these cases. So the reality is like the industry affects the environment, and then they pay for amazing lawyers that create a huge hole, or they take advantage of a social and legal weakness, and they make or prevent, or they create this situation, and then maybe they are never responsible about all the consequences, but they are having results. That happens a lot of extractions process. And here the key part of the matter is the legal expertise of the defenders, y esto es algo triste pero cierto, y es: nunca dudes de que la industria o el sector privado se va a encargar de conseguir al mejor abogado para poder, el caso que yo he trabajado toda mi vida, invadir las tierras de los indígenas. Basado en un proyecto de ley al norte de mi país, donde está la playa más hermosa que tenemos, que es en el Parque Tayrona. Y ahí están los indígenas de la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. De hecho, hay tres comunidades. Y lo que querían el gobierno, obviamente con ayuda extranjera, en un marco de inversión. Ya. En un marco de inversión tenemos, querían crear un resort 5 estrellas en medio de la comunidad, ¿verdad? Y trajeron a los mejores abogados para que representaran esos intereses, que igual venía siendo influido por el gobierno, ¿verdad? Traía una influencia gubernamental porque a ellos les interesaba mucho traer y financiar este tipo de proyectos para seguir captando turismo. Pero la realidad es otra, y es que nada más en el proceso de construcción estoy hablando de un daño irreparable al ecosistema. En ese caso que yo te estoy demostrando, si tú sabes que vas a invertir unos cuantos millones de dólares, no te va a doler invertir un poquito de eso en tener un gran abogado que se busque hasta el vacío más pequeñito para poder crear la posibilidad de esta construcción. Ahora, ¿qué es lo que tienen en contra? Los defensores de derechos humanos, la industria, todas estos movimientos medioambientales para proteger ciertas áreas. La gente salió a marchar, la gente no dejó que tocaran la sierra. Pero esto lo tenemos en todos nuestros países. Aquí creo que alguna vez me hablaron del Sydney. ¿Sydney?
Sí. Un área protegida.
That is the reality. That is what is happening, right? So never forget this, because we will start to see it again when we talk about medical negligence. And it's, remember, the dynamic burden of the proof is on the head to the one party that can prove or determine, or no, it's proof that can give you some evidence about a situation. And because of their position, they have this legal facility to prove. So the best example is this physician versus citizen, because they have all the technical knowledge to know how to do that. But this happens all the time. If you are against an institution, for who is easier to check into the system if you do all the requests asking for the protection of something? Of course, that to the entity, because they have a huge legal system, a huge informatic system, a huge group of people that analyze every situation. So for who will be easier in a trial to prove that, I don't know, you buy your new computer and then you have issues and you ask for, I don't know, a guarantee, or you ask for the change of the product? For who in this case is easier to present to the judge the evidence that you ask for requirements, or that you present some requirements to the entity? Of course, that's them, because they have a huge and personalized system for answer all the questions and all the solicitudes that they are having. Here we have,
So, in the case when you go to court against the bank, for example, right?
Mhm.
The
It's the
bank
same principle.
has all the contracts and
Mhm.
documents.
Yeah, and it's so accurate that you put that example, because it's other huge possibility that you keep that in your mind, that you save it in your disk. And it's, of course, that medical negligence can be the best example of it, but also the banks. Because for who is easier to have all the registers of all your financial movements, from them or for you? You can have your extracts, but then they have this legal facility because of their position. Will be easier that they prove something in front of the judge. So you just ask in your demand or in your paper, you ask or you demand protection, but inspired in this principle, all right? And the dynamic, and this is, I want that you, if you learn this tonight, I am happy. Dynamic burden of proof. Okay. Studied for $100 billion for the chemicals for keep it in the marketplace. These cases are the perfect example about environmental issues. Les voy a hablar del tema de los transgénicos. Les voy a hablar de Coca-Cola. ¿Sí? Ustedes saben la cantidad de estudios que hay en contra de Coca-Cola, pero también saben la cantidad de estudios que acreditan el producto e intentan desacreditar esos estudios anteriores, ¿verdad? Ellos gastan una cantidad, y eso es parte de la imagen, del branding, gastan una cantidad de dinero impresionante solo para poderse mantener a flote en el mercado como un producto que no afecta a la salud. Y eso pasa en todo lado. Lo hacen con publicidad, lo hacen en frente del gobierno, lo hacen en frente de las agencias, como tú lo quieras comprender. Entonces, eso también es trabajo para los abogados y dependiendo del derecho del medio ambiente. Todos estos casos, acuérdense que esto tiene un problema y es que son tremendamente subjetivos y se analiza hasta la minucia más pequeña que está relacionada en este caso. Y al hacer ese análisis tan específico, genera que crear el precedente sea muy difícil, porque puede que yo esté hablando de protección de comunidades indígenas, pero luego no voy a hablar de un territorio ancestral, ¿sí? Puede que al mismo tiempo no esté hablando de protección de flora, fauna y agua. Entonces, as I told you at the beginning, how is everything so interrelated, and also it's like so interconnected and can be kind of interchangeably all the issues, it's really hard to find a precedent that has exactly the same tactic platform about the case that are you taking if you are working in litigation. But also if you want to are working, for example, with the government. Oh, sorry, it's late and I am tired. If you are talking from the part of the government, you need to start to put precedent on your final resolution about something. And maybe you will never get it complete. You can start to put like phrases and start to put interpretation or different way of thinking from different decisions. But in this area, it's really hard that you find a complete precedent, because if you have problems with water, with land, with indigenous communities, with extractions, in the most of the cases, you will have everything so interrelated and interconnected and analyze it in plural. We will finish tomorrow y vamos a comenzar aquí. ¿De acuerdo? Esa carga probatoria. Vamos a terminar hasta ahí. Y mañana vamos a seguir hablando de derecho del medio ambiente. También mañana voy a tener la sesión con Nicolás y mañana temprano voy a mandar los horarios que ya los tengo listos con toda la información de los casos que nos hacen falta o de los artículos, de la lectura, de los videos, para que nos pongamos al día, organicemos con Paula el día que lo vamos a hacer. De nuevo, mil gracias por tu paciencia. En este momento en YouTube ya están subidas todas las clases, ya está el día y están súper numeradas, ¿no? Entonces, todas son sobre 32, el total son 32 clases y va a estar desde la clase 1, ya está subida. Hoy estamos haciendo clase 24, si no me falla la memoria, 23, 24. Y también ya se está subiendo automáticamente, así que si ustedes quieren ver, me avisan. Y yo voy a enviarles también el material para que lo tengan en su poder solamente. Para mañana terminamos entonces Derecho al Medio Ambiente y se alista Nicolás, que después de las 9 hacemos nuestras speaking calls así de corrido y dejamos eso al día.
Gali, disculpa, ¿mañana de qué tema es el homework que yo tengo?
Te las mandé a tu WhatsApp,
Ok.
ya está ahí, para que le pegue la revisadita. Te coloqué las 3 fechas y la actividad al frente.
Ok.
Si era el artículo, te mandé el artículo. Si era el contrato, te mandé el contrato. Si era, me parece que nosotros alcanzamos a recuperar uno.
Ujú.
¿O no? Ah, no, solamente hablamos. ¿Te acuerdas que luego se conectó el siguiente?
I remember.
Entonces, organizamos así. Antes de que se vayan, les voy a pedir que llenen la votación. Y así terminamos nuestro tema por esta noche. Muchísimas
Thank you very
gracias.
much, Gali.
Thanks to you.
Thank
and
you
I see
guys.
you
Have a good
soon.
night.
Have a good night also. Bye bye.